Well, it's half term, so we are off on a much needed holiday away down to the West Country, to Devon. In fact, that's only the first stop, then we're going further than Devon. And so are we taking the sensible Mini, 2019 plated Mini that's going to get you anywhere you want to go? Are we going to take the Crown Victoria? No, because it's not registered yet. Are we going to take the W204 Mercedes, which you just know will always get you wherever you want to go, the most dependable, economical, comfortable car you're ever going to use? No, we're using the untried, untested Hippo the Freelander. Of course we are. Because off-road tyres and four-wheel drive are perfect for about 300 miles of motorway. And we finally found a use for these nets in the ceiling. I never thought they'd get used for anything. It's a Nintendo hole. And finally, we're officially heading west. We're heading down to the A303, which means we're heading to sunshine and beaches and fun in the sun. And yeah, this isn't going well. This bodes well for a week in the holiday time. The car, though, is doing extremely well. Amazingly, we've barely used any fuel at all as far as the dashboard is concerned. I'm astonished at that. I know this thing will get around 40 to the gallon or so, but this is quite impressive. It's really just moved the tiniest segment, so maybe we won't be bankrupting ourselves completely just driving there and back in this thing. So now only 147 miles to go, which is kind of halfway. Also, the total journey I drove from collecting this thing back from Grantham a while ago. So I'm underneath a roof that isn't a roof. Well, the car demists after we made a cup of tea in it. We had a cup of coffee in the Starbucks here, which is the most disgusting Starbucks I've ever been to. The roof was leaking, the toilets were leaking, and it was 11 quid for 3 drinks. Massive rip-off. This thing, though, is doing fine. These chunky tyres are great in the deep water on the motorway, but they are absolutely deafening. Someone really worried me when it was the first drive in it. They thought they could hear the wheel bearings on it, but I think it's just the chunky tyres. Radio reception, though, is absolutely useless on this car. About 3 stations for about 4 miles, and then they will stop. Anyway, back on the road again with more tea. And here we have the world famous Stonehenge traffic jam. It's taken about, it's over there.
Can you see it, Katie? Yeah.
Past the sheep, past the traffic. There it is. Some rocks, which are very exciting.
They're actually sheep.
Oh, they're sheep. Oh, Sheephenge. It's made of sheep. Stonehenge is made of sheep. They mined them in Neolithic times. Yeah, tasty. We've now got another 116 miles to go, so we are closing in slowly on our destination. Only 2 hours, 9 minutes. And the Freelander is still, touch wood and all that, running absolutely fine. Faultlessly, you might say. I do need to go and sort out these windscreen wipers, which were pointed out on the first video of this car, that the left and right wipers have been mixed up and they're not parking in the right place. There's a big triangle of doom over here on the right hand side, which doesn't really get wiped. And also we've discovered that the radio reception is absolutely terrible, so I'm having to broadcast, we've gone it, yeah, from the phone to the FM receiver to the transmitter, and there's any way you can get radio for more than a few minutes, and only the tweeters work in the front doors. So yeah, in terms of a long distance car, it's not 100% perfect, but it is very comfortable. Well, it is 5 to 5. We've got 80 miles and an hour and a half to go. Stopped, quick comfort break somewhere near Exeter. Good news, I did not ruin the rear screen heater. That's been working absolutely fine when I took the thing off. Only used a quarter of a tank of fuel on about 150 miles. Quick walk around the car. It's just there. This thing is just looking so good. We've had a bit of a talk about this, what we think of this thing as a long distance cruiser, because it's the first time we've taken it for a long drive. I like it more than Mrs. Furious's Mini because it's much more comfortable and relaxing to be in on a long drive than the Mini, which is a bit jittery and a bit uncomfortable after a while. She prefers it to the Mercedes because she thinks the seats are more comfortable, because she always gets like a pain in her leg after a while. So overall, we're really, really pleased with this thing. And it's like a quarter of a tank of diesel in a 20-year-old car. Over 150, 170-ish miles we've done so far. Pretty impressive. Apart from the radio being rubbish, it's great. So we've made it 200 and whatever I said it was this morning, miles all the way here to Barnstable in Devon. So we've crossed the bottom side of the country. We're only stopping here for one night though, because this isn't where we're actually going. This has just been boring dual carriageway and stuff up to this point. Tomorrow morning, when hopefully it's not raining anymore, we can go somewhere far more exciting and go somewhere a bit more twisty and laney and see some countryside. Now it's time to get something to eat and drink. It's late and I'm tired. So Hippo survived the night. And this is, as I say, only a quick stopover. This was actually quite a nice hotel here. Kids eat free as well, it turns out, if adults are eating as well, which is a nice endorsement of a very comfortable hotel. But this is only a stopover because today we're bright and early, about 7:30 in the morning, and we're heading off to further west, more country lanes, more Freelander suitable.
It's obviously tidal, the river. We're in Barnstable, so I think it's the river.
River Barn?
Bideford.
Is it a river?
Not sure.
Well, guess who missed the turning to where we're going, because I wasn't listening to the sat nav. And at least we got a car we can turn around in a seriously muddy place though.
I told you this car would be good. Mum, you're not meant to put the camera on me.
Yeah, right, onto the edge.
See the muddy bit.
Right, now this time we are going to make the turning to where we're going, not turn around in a muddy field. And this time it is...
Heartland, 3 miles.
Heartland.
Ooh, how long?
Lundy Heli Point. 3 miles.
So how many minutes?
Not many. 2 or 3. So now we're following tiny brown signs because this place isn't even in the sat nav.
Oh, well.
Oh, now we're officially in the countryside. Massive tractor full of poo. We've run out of tiny brown signs. We're lost, we're not going on holiday. We're going to turn around and go home. Very pretty though, it's very like Lord of the Rings kind of countryside around here.
Oh.
Wind blasted trees, I think you call that, don't you? Wind blasted. Is that a word? Yeah, I'm going to go with yes.
I remember this bridge last time actually.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
we're nearly there. Yeah.
I was about to say, I haven't seen a brown sign in a while, I'm worried we've missed a turn.
Yeah, I definitely remember that bridge last time. It's in about 4 miles.
Maybe we'll be able to get a drive of the Land Rover during the week. I doubt it. Lundy, meaning Puffin Island, is a small lump of granite 3 miles long and half a mile wide off the north coast of Devon in the mouth of the Bristol Channel where it meets the Atlantic. Its main purpose has been something for ships to crash into over the years. In the summertime, the MS Oldenburg, a ship owned by the island, runs almost daily, but out of season there are only 2 helicopter transfers a week on Monday and Friday, bringing visitors and supplies from the mainland. The island has an interesting and unusual past, but today is owned by the National Trust, who operate it as a sheep farm, and the Landmark Trust, who rent out the interesting buildings as holiday lets. At the heart of the island is a town centre, well, kind of. There's a general store, an island office and a pub. The Morisco Tavern is the heart of the island with good beer, great food and always a pot of amazing coffee on the go. And this is the most exposed gents' toilets in all of England. It is an amazing view, but you do have to be very careful if there's strong winds blowing. Now, Lundy is the perfect place to disconnect from the modern world. There's almost no phone signal, less internet, and the power goes off after midnight. It is loved by climbers, bird watchers, hikers, stargazers, landscape photographers, and anyone who just wants a break that's not the usual sort of thing. Now, for a small island, there is a lot of history. It's been inhabited since the Vikings and was recorded by the Normans. In the 1200s, it was home to the Morisco family, whose mercurial relationship with the king reached a low point when William de Morisco was hung, drawn and quartered for treason. For the next 600 years, it was a base for smugglers and pirates, a fortress for Charles I, and a retreat for disgraced nobles. By the 1800s, it was owned by two gentlemen, Mr. Matravers and Mr. Strife, who it is claimed won it in a card game and sold it to William Hudson Heaven in 1834 for £9,870. The Heaven family owned the island for the next 85 years and are responsible for most of the buildings on the island, including a now closed quarry. They were followed by Martin Coles Harmon, who paid £25,000 for Lundy in 1925 and introduced much of the livestock farming, the puffin stamp postal system, and even a failed attempt at its own currency. After Harmon's death, Lundy was put up for auction, and that's when the National Trust took ownership of the island and its ship, although that has been replaced now. Our home for the week was the Old Light. The lighthouse built in 1819 through to 1920 by Trinity House to try and stave off the many shipwrecks. It's a beautiful granite building with a keeper's cottage divided into 2 apartments and a 30-metre tower, which is now the finest lookout point on the island, if not the country. As lighthouses go, it wasn't a glowing success. It was built on the highest point of the island, 143 metres above sea level, but also above the fog line, so its light couldn't really be seen by ships. So a lower light was built at the base of the tower, which is now my favourite spot for morning coffee, with maybe a biscuit or two looking out at the sea. In 1861, a fog signal battery was built with a pair of 18-pounder guns pointing out to sea, firing regularly into the fog. This was not spectacularly successful either, and both were retired when the new North and South lights were opened in 1897. Our holiday started well. Arriving on the island mid-morning on Monday, we embraced our new life in the tavern with a pint of Lundy Old Light golden ale, a slice of cake and a game of chess, which apparently my 10-year-old son is very good at. Before we headed down to the landing beach on the south point of the island, where the ocean was battering the jetty and the beach link across to Rat Island, a sign of things to come. As the week went on, we hiked to different parts of the island, but the weather went downhill as we learnt Storm Eunice was coming in. And it would be the worst storm the island had seen in years, if not ever, and we would not be flying home on Friday.
The Corvus from Lower Light on a nice calm day. It is absolutely beautiful looking out to sea. I think it's the Atlantic Ocean that way. It was recently re-roofed. It's a copper roof. You can see it's starting to go a little bit green and verdi green. In places it will go all green eventually. And it's an absolutely beautiful room. But on a day like today when the weather is just brutal, it's actually really hard to even hear what you're saying. The wind is so strong right now. That's on the inside. Walking up the path a minute ago through the gate, two, Mrs. Furious and Furious Jr. both got blown off their feet. And it's not even as strong as it's going to get. Tomorrow might calm down, but Friday there's a new storm coming in, the strongest Lundy has possibly ever seen. Force 12 gales, 93 mile an hour winds apparently. we've been told. This is halfway up the lighthouse. The wind is just thundering through. This is the bit I don't like. The stairs suddenly get really steep and narrow. And it's a bit slippery today as well. So you come off the spiral staircase into this lower area underneath what used to be a lamp carrier. You go up another small staircase up into the light itself. On a clear day, you can see the entire island from up here. It's absolutely beautiful. Today though, you can't even, well, you can barely see the ground. Again, on a nice day, these deck chairs are a wonderful place to sit and take in the amazing view. Bring a cup of coffee up here, bring a cake, bring a book. It's glorious, but right now, that wind is just deafening. I don't know if you can even hear me or not. The wind is so loud up here. It's a lovely space to be in. It's really beautiful and airy. But I don't know if you'll see this or not. That is just insane wind speed up there. Unsurprisingly, they've chained shut the exterior door to get to that walkway. All the flagpoles on the island have been taken down so no one can go out and get hit by them. Though I would not recommend going outside in this weather right now at all. This is not the holiday we expected. Oh, there's the sea! I honestly didn't know I was facing the sea a second ago. There is an airstrip over that way for light aircraft, but that doesn't get used that often apparently. Currently about 70 miles an hour wind. It's going to get worse in a little while. I can barely even stand up in the doorway. Like a blast furnace in there. So yeah, this is coming up to 9 o'clock, they're gusting just over 90 miles an hour. The lighthouse is probably the best place to be because it's such a solid old structure. The weather is definitely getting worse now. Those waves definitely look bigger, and there's rain in the air too. A real storm. Eunice is giving us a proper battering now. On the day of the storm, everyone was told to stay indoors because if the near 100-mile-an-hour wind didn't take you, the flying debris would, and there's no hospital on the island. Roof tiles were blown down and a wooden building lost a wall, but we were tucked up indoors in the strongest building on the island with the best view of the storm. Climbing the tower wasn't scary because we knew it had been standing against storms for 200 years, but the wind was an almost deafening howl, and being so far down, the waves crashing in from the Atlantic looked small, but were actually several meters high. The next day was calm and warm. The wind had finally subsided, but we still couldn't fly home as the power was out and the trees were down on the mainland. So we did the Lundy letterbox hunt, which is little stamps you can stamp into a notebook hidden all around the island. And we finally found the wreckage of one of the two crashed Heinkel bombers from 1941.
We were doing well with our treasure hunting and looking forward to more on Sunday, but the weather closed in again. So once again, we were trapped indoors for our last day, drinking tea with our neighbours. Finally on Monday, the weather was good, better than any we'd seen on our holiday, but we could fly home. We'd had a good time, but it really was time to be leaving.
So now, has the Freelander, has Hippo survived a week here under three of the biggest storms of the century? Yes, it's still here, thank goodness. But we'll open and start to the question.
Let's have a look.
Any broken windows? That's on the way.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it won't open.
Oh, look at that. It's...
Oh, it actually won't open. Hang on.
Oh, good, that's right.
Well, the door opens, but the battery is stone dead. So we've got a jump start off a big truck. Oh, nearly. It's getting there. You can tell how flat this thing was though. But it starts in the end thanks to one of the hunters on the island with a proper heavy duty Jeep with heavy duty jump leads and about 20 minutes of letting the engine run. Unfortunately, the tailgate window keeps winding itself down. The brakes are welded on now as well.
Are they? How do you weld the stuff?
What was that?
The brake's freeing off.
Do you know it's not going to go over the edge?
No, it's not going to go anywhere at all. Which wheel is dragging? Drum brakes rusted on after a week in the salt air, leaving quite a trail.
So the Freelander was a perfect holiday hauler. It did well, but did not like sitting with its alarm going off solidly in the wind for a week, so the battery was stone dead on our arrival. Well, the car is now running and we're driving home. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed our little travelogue about Lundy and our adventure with the Freelander, which is proving itself to be part of the Furious family quite well. If you've enjoyed this, please do hit like and subscribe and join us again next time for more Furious tea breaking.